I have the most like generic fucking last name in the history of last names.
I hate to break it to you, buddy, but your name is also Geoff.
No, my first name, because the way it's spelled, is a name that no one knows how to pronounce or spell correctly, so that's fun.
Geoff. Did you have like substitute teachers that called you Geoff?
I've been called every version you can think of. And then the most popular one obviously became Joffrey because of Game of Thrones. That got like it'd be everyone's like first instinct. It used to be Geoff, and then it became Joffrey because of Game of Thrones. That's my story, my fucking life.
And then you immediately went into full Joffrey mode.
Well, eventually, I got to the point. If it is not a like if it got to the point where if it was just going to be in casual conversation and I knew I would never see or talk to this person again, I wouldn't even bother to correct them. It's like I don't even fucking care.
It just never happened.
Aurora is now texting me options. She said G-Fry, Gopher.
G-Fry?
Wouldn't it be Geo-Fry? Or
G-Fry.
Now I'm breaking my own brain thinking of the way my own name is spelled. We gotta get this show going, dude. Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new installment of Screenplay Rewind. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And before we get to our film this week, You're Next. Just spoiler warning in advance, because we usually like get halfway through the fucking conversation
before we remember.
Yeah, we're usually the last like closing out, like plugging the the Twitter. Like, so if you want to follow us more, oh shit, spoiler warnings.
Spoiler warning for the movie we just covered.
For the movie we just talked about for 2.5 hours. But fortunately, someone would have to listen to be spoiled, so we're in the clear.
Right.
I believe you said you had a question for our Q&A segment this time, and I'm curious, since you said you had thought about it how long ago, but forgot about it?
It's been over a week now. I don't know. I was just having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, ooh. And then until you asked me in the green room if we had any questions, I was like, oh, I have one.
Yeah. And if anyone out there would like to send in a question, you can email us, screenplayrewind@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter @SPRFilmcast. So, Ron, what is your question for the week?
So, my wife thought I should limit it to the Disney universe because it's just
I know no limits.
Right? It's just kind of easier and everyone's more familiar with. Okay. Where in the Disney universe do you think you would like to vacation?
I want to go hang out with the Yeti monster in Frozen. Why not? Seems like a cool guy.
Marshmallow?
Yeah.
In the ice castle? Yeah. I thought about like Arendelle or something, because I mean Northern Lights. It's probably most likely in Norway. I don't think I would want a vacation on Motunui from Moana. I don't think I'd want to do that. There's tends to be lava monsters around. There's not exactly any resorts or hotels there. Beast Castle seems terrifying to me if it's still under the curse. I don't know that I want my silverware or my dinner plate or anything to get up and start singing and dancing. I think I would... oh god, I just blanked on his name. I just think I would react to the way the dude did in the live action one when he ran out of the castle.
You know the best Disney environment to live in gotta be Song of the South. If we're being honest.
No, we already live in Song of the South.
That's true. We live in modern America, so we live in Song of the... Now I'm just fucking sad, and this podcast is over. Good job.
That's what better than I could ever have imagined.
Oh my god. I can tell you where I wouldn't want to fucking live is the live action Pinocchio land, because fuck that movie.
What about Lies of P? Would you want to live in Lies of P?
Yeah.
The Bloodborne Pinocchio game?
Seems pretty cool. But have you guys watched that fucking live action Pinocchio? That movie's fucking bad.
No, is it out? I didn't know it was out.
Oh yeah, they dropped it on Disney Plus like a month ago, dude. It's so bad though.
Well,
it was just like it was so bad they hid that shit under the rug where fucking Song of the South lies. I didn't want anyone talking about it.
And that's
I feel
our
like
show.
It was.
Thanks for
I feel like
tuning in.
it was. I feel like it was meant to be a actual theatrical release. Otherwise, why would they bother to pay Tom Hanks like half the budget just to show up for a day and a half to do Geppetto? But it ended up being so fucking bad that they just threw it on Disney Plus, promoted it for like a day on the front page, and just like, now we just pretend that never happened.
Like Dumbo.
Yeah. Oh man.
Now, isn't there 3 Pinocchio movies coming? That was one. There's a Del Toro one, right? And then, Robert Downey Jr. was supposed to have been working on one.
Oh, I was familiar with the Del Toro one, which I'm kind of interested in, just because it's Del Toro and
the animation seems interesting on it.
It seems interesting and weird. The Disney live action one.
That's Del Toro.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I am not a Pinocchio fan at all because I think the Pinocchio stories is kind of ass. Like, have you ever
it's
actually
Job?
Have you watched the original Pinocchio?
Oh God, yes, I have.
Like fucking nightmare fuel. And then like the new one has opportunities to like fix some of like the fucking spoilers for live action Pinocchio.
Why,
dude? So like the whole moral, I like how this turned into a fucking Pinocchio review. So like the whole moral of Pinocchio is to like, like be a better person, So you're telling me they don't tell anyone about the magical island that's turning little kids into donkeys, and we're just gonna let that slide and not go help those poor fuckers out? Because that's fucking that's scarier than the Bloodborne version, dude.
Nice.
It's like they just pretend that never happened. They don't address it at all, and it's just like, you guys know, like with the reboot, like you can fix the story problems, right? It doesn't have to retain all of the bullshit, like terrible storytelling of the original just because it's the same name. I no clue why that movie exists at all. So yeah, don't watch it. It's bad.
Don't watch it. It's
don't
bad.
Fucking watch it. Put that on the poster. Don't watch it.
That's the Screenplay Rewind promise. Don't watch it. It's bad.
A place that I actually would, so I just been scrolling through the list of Disney movies, all like 5,000 of them, because as soon as you asked me like which Disney place would I live in, my brain forgot. My brain forgot the entirety of 90 years worth of fucking movies. Sword in the Stone, just because I'm a nerd for
Camelot,
King Arthur stuff. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe like Atlantis seems cool.
Yeah, would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Interesting one. Tron would be cool.
Oh, but you got to get past the MCP though.
That's true. If
you got to be
Tron,
the MVP, they can get past the MCP.
Yeah. So I think Camelot and Sword in the Stone is mine.
But okay, since we've already reviewed one other movie, what was your thoughts on Tron Legacy? Out of curiosity, I don't think we've ever talked about it.
I liked it. I thought it was okay.
I liked it too. I just had one major complaint.
Okay. CGI.
What the fuck was that with Tron? He's in like one scene and he's a villain inexplicably, and then he's gone.
Yeah, it was a little bit strange.
Like the way that they leave him hanging, I was like, okay, he's gonna come back as a good guy because he like rebooted himself or something. No, I think he's just fucking dead now. But we still called the movie Tron.
Maybe they were planning, because when that movie came out, they had like implications and kind of buzz around it, like it was going to be a full revival for like a new franchise, basically. I wonder if maybe they intended to circle back around on that in a future sequel that never happened because it was kind of a bomb. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
But also, like, I feel like a lot of people that had like complaints about the new one, it's like, I feel like those same complaints would have applied to the originals.
First one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I don't really understand like what the disconnect was, other than it is a modern reboot of a thing made in the 70s or 80s, which equals the internet has to hate it because the internet.
82?
Yeah. I have the list up. I think it was 82.
Oh, 2010.
Yes.
My bad. No.
Yeah, Tron
82.
Was 82. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah.
I don't know why I knew that, but I did.
I like that they got Daft Punk to do the soundtrack. That's pretty kick-ass.
That soundtrack, I don't give a shit what you think of that movie. That soundtrack is fucking amazing.
I love me some Daft Punk, so I love that soundtrack.
The Grid, that is like one of the best tracks on that soundtrack.
Dude, if you want a good album to work out to, cue up the Tron Legacy soundtrack. Man. Because this is fucking money, dude. Like the whole thing is great.
Makes you want to have a disc battle or get on your light cycle.
Yeah. Man. Love that fucking album.
I want to watch Tron.
That would be an interesting franchise coverage to do the original one and then the new one, because
I feel like Tron Legacy is what Tron wanted to be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like Tron Legacy felt like it belonged in the Star Wars universe or something. It was like a weird blend of Star Wars and Blade Runner, like the aesthetics and stuff, and what was going on. It was interesting.
Which, like,
that's a big damn door.
I think people also just probably had like their expectations blown out of the water because it was something that hadn't been continued really at all for, what is that, like 28 years. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of, it's kind of like the Star Wars problem of how it went away for so long that when they brought it back, like it was never going to be as good as the original movies were, and it had 30 years of buildup and hype and expectation, and that just is a recipe for disaster. Oh. Even though the movie wasn't that bad, it was a recipe for disaster regarding its like reception, I think.
Oh God. IMDb Tron 3 2025 Jared Leto rumored.
Yeah, they've been talking about another continuation of it forever, but I just don't know. And if it does happen, I don't want Jared Leto in it because I think Jared Leto is kind of shitty.
Yep. He is.
He just seems to be kind of a douchebag, and I don't think he is as talented as both he thinks he is.
I was going to say, he's definitely not as talented as he thinks he is.
And a lot of people, I think, honestly, like have kind of cooled on him, thankfully. Because for a minute there, he was popping up in like everything.
I mean, to be fair, Geoff, the man is damaged.
God damn it. And with that, the podcast is over. We cannot.
One of us had to do it.
Thanks, everyone. I remember that first image of his Joker came out while we were doing our old podcast, and I think we spent 30 minutes bitching about that fucking design.
Just that one image.
They released that image, and that was all, and you could just tell they were so proud of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, it wasn't part of, like, a batch of images from the movie or from, like, the set. Like, they went out of their way to set up that one promotional image of him, and it was like they were like expecting this, like, oh man, everyone's gonna fucking love this. Guess what? They did not.
That's the only thing anyone remembers from the movie, in not a good way.
The new Suicide Squad was good though. I
don't know why anyone disliked Birds of Prey. I liked that movie.
Birds of Prey was also good.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I want to see. I think Black Adam looks actually like really fucking good. I want to see Black Adam.
That trailer is fucking amazing.
Dude, fucking Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Yes, please.
I want that. I want that so bad.
Yeah, I'm actually. That's probably the most excited I've been for one of the movies in a minute.
This is
I was excited for Wonder Woman 2, but then that broke my heart.
Well, yeah, that's on us.
Yeah.
The one time I have been happy about something not working out from the Constantine TV show. But they teased Dr. Fate, and they were supposed to bring him in at some point. It would not have been Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan is an amazing choice for that role.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I think they're actually holding back on a lot of like the action sequences with the trailers too, which makes me happy because when you watch like the trailers, it doesn't seem to be like a Michael Bay trailer where like here is all of the cool shit in a 3-minute supercut. There you go. Nothing left to the imagination.
Let me put it this way. I watched that trailer and I don't plan to watch any more. And I only do that. That's like the highest honor I can give your movie is I don't want to see anything before I go in.
Yeah, exactly.
So I watched that trailer and I was like, yep, I'm good. You've already got my HBO subscription. I will see you then.
Just a side note. So I told you before we wrap up the Q&A section how I told you I had pulled up the Disney list of all their filmography to just kind of jog my memory. If you go to the d23.com web page, that is their list of Disney films, and you scroll down to 1964, above Mary Poppins, guess what they have as the image?
Oh no. What?
Guess just I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Do they really?
Yeah, they have him listed directly above the Mary Poppins image. And that, or the Mary Poppins listing, I should say. That's just fucking genius, dude. Yondu, love it. I'll send you screenshot of it.
Do that because I'm trying to find it right now.
Yeah, I'm texting you. But man, that's just like genius. I saw that. I did like a double take, and I was like,
wait, what am I looking at?
I just texted it to you. Well played, Disney. Well played.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
It's so good. That's like the only image they have on like the whole list too. It's like so cut and dry until that, and then they have Yondu. That's like the only like little Easter egg they have on like the whole page. It's really funny. Oh man,
where did you want to talk about? Where did you send it to?
On your phone. I texted.
I was looking in the Discord. No, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So whoever designs the D23 webpage, you are cool and SPR certified.
I wonder if they snuck that in and no one's seen it yet.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Or I also hope they did see it and they gave the guy a raise, because that's what I would do.
Right.
Because he deserves one, because that's fucking genius. But yeah, again, if you want to have a question or prompt discussed by Ron and myself, because why wouldn't you? We'll talk about anything. You've listened to at least 14 minutes, unfortunately, of this show.
Right.
So why wouldn't you want us to discuss
That's on you, dear listener.
We didn't listen. You can email us screenplayrewind@gmail.com or hit us up at Twitter @SBRFilmcast. So our selection for the film today that we're covering, though, is You're Next. This was a pick of mine. I've been on my list. I don't have the fucking like epic Silmarillion style catalog of movie selections that Ron has logged, but I had like a handful logged, just of stuff that had kind of like popped in my mind over time over the last couple of years we've been doing this show, which is crazy, by the way. We're like entering almost year 3 of this show, and within a couple of weeks. That's pretty fucking
insane.
bonkers. Yeah, it's pretty bonkers.
Yeah, Halloween.
I always think back. Yeah, I always think back to Halloween being that time period being like the beginning of the show, because we opened it up with The Thing and Alien, because of course we did.
Because of course we did.
Any other way. But yeah, this was a movie I've been wanting to have on the show for a while, because I think this movie is interesting in how it's like it's pretty well beloved in like horror nerd circles, but it is like strangely very influential to a couple of other big horror movies of the last couple years I'll talk about that I just found like really interesting. Specifically Ready or Not. There's been a lot of like discourse online as far as like people comparing Ready or Not and this, because they are, if you break it down to kind of like the nuts and bolts, very, very similar. And I'd be curious to see what Wingard and Barrett think of Ready or Not, because it has a lot of the same kind of like energy to it.
Right.
I think Ready or Not is written better, but You're Next also kind of did it first, and they do it in a different way. And if I didn't already say, full spoilers for You're Next. This is a movie that has a couple of twists to it, so I do think if you have any interest in You're Next, or just kind of like a general interest in horror at all, I think it's a fun movie to check out, and just kind of like see the like where like the little narrative strings that would end up becoming a little, you know, not only with Ready or Not, but also some other stuff we'll talk about. But what was your kind of like general reaction to it? Because I think this was your first time seeing this, right?
Yeah, it was show. I hadn't even heard of it until you brought it up. I thought it was okay. I had some problems starting out. I think it got better as it went. I think a lot of my problem probably has to do with the fact that I saw Ready or Not first.
And that is going to be a really interesting discussion, because I had a more negative reaction to Ready or Not because I had seen this first.
Yeah, I had some issues at the beginning, especially with like a lot of like the acting performances seemed really stiff and off.
A lot of the because part of the problem with this is I think I don't think it's necessarily like all the writing, because I have seen Simon Barrett and Wingard have, because like the movie that they would basically like do as not like a follow up to it. It's not related at all, but The Guest has Dan Stevenson in it. You know, he's the guy from Legion and Beauty and the Beast.
Okay, yeah.
And he's or I think it might just be Dan Stevens.
I think it's Dan Stevens, yeah.
Yeah, he's great. So it's not just like a script problem. I think it is just like this was like their second movie, and it was a $1 million budget, which is kind of insane, because like this movie looks amazing for that cheap. It looks more like one of the low end like $20 million Blumhouse movies not a like one basically independent $1 million movie. So like they really did a great job overall making it come together with that, a little of a budget to work with. But you can definitely tell that the actors are, not where they spent the money.
Right. And
which I can't honestly blame them, because that's never really like what you're going after when you're making a independent horror movie. Usually it's going to be like the concept that is the draw to it and not the acting. So I cannot blame them for using the money more towards like the gore and cinematography and editing versus the acting. But yeah, you are totally correct. A lot of some of the actors I think are pretty good. Some of them are pretty bad.
Is Rob Moran the dad? Rob Moran?
I will have to verify. There's a couple people in here. They're like the type of actors and actresses where you like, I swear to God, I've seen them in something, but you can't put your finger on it. Rob Moran or Moran.
Moran.
Is the dad. A
lot of his dialogue to me was up there with Mark Wahlberg's. What? No,
no.
Like, I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But now here's the thing. I would just like to say that yes, I enjoy such films as Sharknado and what have you. Not great. They're also movies that are well aware of what they are, and this one is too, in a way. You can kind of see just by the acting in the first 20 minutes kind of which characters will live the longest, because it seemed like the worse actor you were, it seemed like you died earlier in the film.
Yeah. And one of the guys who dies the first, I think he actually is the first guy to get the guy who gets shot with the first bolt from the crossbow.
Now him I liked.
The Tariq guy, funny enough, is Ty West. He's a horror director. He's like their buddy. So he's just in the movie basically as their buddy, and probably because like they're buds. They were like, hey, we got this character. He's the first person to die. He was like, ooh, pick me. I'm down. and they even made his character a
documentary
director dork. Yeah, where he has like the fucking like pretentious like scarf thing on him. He's like literally a
he's like the stereotypical like he was even doing like what was it? He released this film on like an underground film festival. Like he was the stereotypical like what you think of like douchebag director type, but I liked him. I liked his character and I liked his asking. He was the first one to go, and I was like, oh, come on.
Right. Yeah. What's also like really funny though is the opening to the movie is incredibly cut and dry what you expect from a horror movie, especially like a slide. You can tell that Wingard and Barrett like really fucking know slasher movies, because the first like 30 minutes of this movie until you get to the first twist is so stereotypical horror movie, and they're doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
Because like the whole point of this movie, and there's another twist towards the end that is but the main twist of the movie that makes me like it is the protagonist being competent. And not only being competent, but end up becoming this, like, this was a huge, I think, influence on the Halloween reboot recently. You remember where they made Jamie Lee Curtis like the badass eventually, where she kind of becomes Michael Myers? She becomes, what is it, the Shade? Is that like what I think they originally called them, something like that?
Yeah. The main character in this is kind of a weird combination of her and, what is her name? Is it like Judy Greer? The one that played her, Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter. Because this character has the exact same backstory. Like Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter in the movie. Is it Judy Greer, the one from Jurassic World?
Yes, she plays her daughter.
Hollywood's mom, right? Like she's a mom in every movie. And she was a mom in that movie, remember? And then she's just like, here, honey, hold this. And picks up a shotgun and blows Michael Myers away. Like, it's... It's
what's... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, the two of them together are kind of the main character from this movie.
And the first time I saw this, that was what was like a big draw to me, is this came out in 2011. Like, this was a pretty like novel concept for then. It's kind of become like a thing now where like the protagonist is, actually competent, but especially for like slasher movies around, this was like kind of like the beginning of like Blumhouse becoming a thing. This was kind of, like slasher movies don't really exist anymore. So this is kind of like this kind of weird examination of kind of like dieharding the protagonist of a slasher movie.
Right.
So it's one of these things where it's like one of the reasons I want to talk about this movie is I don't think this movie is like incredible, but where you can see like how so many breadcrumbs of modern horror kind of like go back to Your Next.
Right.
That makes it just really interesting to talk about to me, because when I'm watching like especially like like Ready or Not or the Halloween reboot from a couple of years ago, and I just kind of like see those breadcrumbs, I think it's really interesting that it's like this is a very, very like you said, you hadn't even really heard of it. It's this kind of like underground fucking. It's funny. It's like they call it's kind of funny because like at the dinner scene in this movie, why Ron is laughing is because they have like this joke conversation about how Ty West's character Tariq is an underground documentary director, and he's like the one thing he's directed was a thing at the Underground Film Festival, and they fucking nail painful family reunion conversations though.
This is every Thanksgiving ever.
Yeah, they nail it because you fucking hate everyone who isn't the main girl in this, and that is the point. Like you're supposed to find them all just fucking repulsive so that you are 1000% on her side.
You know what's
once
funny?
She starts fucking Michael Myersing everybody.
You know what's really funny is in a lot of ways the family kind of reminds me of the family in Knives Out.
Yeah, just like that.
Even
that constant...
like a lot of like the dinner scenes and that, like when they did the remember when they did the flashbacks with the dad, and like everybody remembers it differently, so it was slightly different every time and stuff. It's still very reminiscent of this dinner scene in a way. Like
it's even like incredibly well observed when everyone starts screaming at the same. I think that's actually when fucking poor Tariq gets the crossbow pulled to the head.
Yep,
it's exactly like I think they have an exact like parallel in Knives Out to that scene you're talking about. I think that you're referencing, like where everyone is just screaming and having like 10 different conversations at once.
When they're arguing.
Yeah.
And Michael Shannon ad-libbed every line, and it was amazing. I would not eat one iota of shit.
Oh, shit. I'm so excited for that, dude. We're covering the second one on the show the week that it comes out.
Instantly, yes.
It is a special, separate episode because that shit is on the like day one. We're fucking recording about that because I have to see it instantly.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
But what's fucking awesome about this movie though is how it is slowly developed how competent she is. The main character, Erin, played by Sharni Vinson.
It keeps escalating.
Yeah, it keeps escalating because the first thing they do is just showing her not panicking once the first person gets killed. Because the basic premise of this movie is we've talked about basically running down like the crew, directed by Adam Wingard, written by Simon Barrett. They are kind of like the way that Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill are from like Doctor Strange and Sinister, how they're like they're not only like a writing team, but they're also, you're the director, I'm going to end up being credited as like the screenwriter.
Right.
And their team, they've done You're Next, The Guest, and a few other stuff for the past few years in this kind of like similar vein of kind of independent-esque. They eventually became big enough names. They were also involved in the VHS movies. Have you ever watched those where it was like the
I have not.
Yeah, there's a few.
I've noticed a lot of these actors are in the VHS movies.
Yeah, they're very, very like hit or miss, like some of the VHS, because they are just kind of like little like one-offs. It's kind of like Southbound was, how they're just kind of little one-off tales of just kind of random horror stuff. But some of them are good, and they like a lot of their stuff is in that same kind of indie horror vein, which I really like, because I feel like when they're incredibly independent as far as just how much the budget is, they are given more freedom to do kind of like whatever the fuck they want. Because this is kind of like an out there concept for horror at the time. Because like 2011, this was like kind of like at the tail end of the Saw days, where like horror had no idea what it was, what it could be. Like this wasn't really, horror has had a resurgence over the past several years, but this was kind of in like the dead zone where it's just like fucking mostly garbage. So this was an interesting kind of out there concept for the time. But we had mentioned Sharni Vinson plays Erin. Erin is the girlfriend of the son of a incredibly rich and wealthy family. I don't know if they ever actually say, but I think they're believed to be kind of like kind of upstate New York. Is that kind of like where you're believed to where they I don't think they ever say, but they're basically driving out into the middle of nowhere to the dad of the boyfriend. He was a retired he said he was in marketing from you said it was like a weapons manufacturer.
Arms manufacturer. I mean, this house has to be like what, 10 miles west of the Avengers facility.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it's upstate New York. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's weird. The arms manufacturing I thought was going to be interesting. I thought that was going to be what was driving the plot.
You thought it was going to tie in more specifically to like what he had done?
That was what was actually happening is one thing that kind of disappointed me in the writing as far as the overall plot and everything goes. Because it seems so, I guess, basic.
Yeah, it's interesting how it has multiple like twists going on with it.
It was just like, why do I need to know why they're wealthy? If I don't need to know that information, why are we specifically having an entire scene focusing around it?
Yeah, I honestly
I almost feel like it's supposed to do more with like, why would she know that company more than the plot? But my instant thought was, oh, well, that's what this is going to be about. It's going to be some sort of revenge thing.
It's also just like, I don't know, you can kind of like turn it on its head as far as like, it's just kind of like what you would naturally ask. You know, if you went to your boyfriend's fucking entire family reunion in this 100-year-old house mansion estate thing, you'd be like, what the fuck did he do to get that much money? So I don't know, but yeah, it is incredibly specific that it feels like it would be a relevant detail when it's really not. He's just rich,
right? That's all I need to know. I can get that from the house. I can get that from the conversation.
Yeah. So they are having a kind of like family reunion because it is going to be the 35th anniversary of the mom and dad. The family does not get along, very Knives Out style. Basically everyone hates each other. Like you can tell, like it's kind of like in Knives Out how there were, you know, like a couple of members of the family where you can kind of tell like they kind of get along, and then there's other members of the family that just like absolutely fucking hate each other's guts.
I feel like you should have been invited to the funeral. I was outvoted.
Yeah, I feel like that's also pretty accurate. I feel like a lot of families that are this size, and especially families that have this much wealth, that you end up having, you know, like it's not going to be all sunshine and roses with members of the family. So this is where the movie, it feels like very generic at first, and it feels like a kind of like downside to it because you're just kind of like seeing like the very, very bare bones of your prototypical slasher movie. But where I think it starts to like ratchet up is like I think it's like 27 minutes in, about 30 minutes in, when that first kill happens. But they start to show you the protagonist, Erin, being very, very competent and not freaking out. And you're just like, I feel like her twists and like what they do with the plot as far as like her background and her just kind of like literally fucking Home Aloneing some of them.
Yeah,
it's awesome because you hadn't really like seen that yet.
The nails through the board at the window.
The nails through the board. There's just a lot of like, and we'll talk about the fucking blender scene, dude.
No.
The blender scene like is worth it's worth watching.
That was just mean.
Scene. It's awesome.
Like he was already dead. What was the point? That's just mean.
It's fucking awesome because and they do that
because
to like
him.
And they do that to the biggest cunt of the movie. You know, all about it.
Speaking of cunts, can we talk about Joe Swanberg?
Oh my god!
Like,
hey, do you know who Michael C. Hall is? He looks like Michael C. Hall. You know who Michael C. Hall is? He's the guy who plays Dexter and was from 6 Feet Under.
Okay, yeah.
This fucking actor looks like he's his like older brother, and I can't unsee that. But yeah, continue what you want to say about Joe Swanberg.
I was gonna say the best douchebag I've seen since Vince Vaughn in a movie. Right? Like
he's just the fucking worst.
That's very unprofessional. Like what? Like I was on fucking Crispin's side. I was like, the fuck did you just say? And like everything he did was specific to the person just to piss them off just because he could. Like the only reason I watch TV is the commercials. I mean, entire like you can have entire documentaries the length of a commercial. Like, have you ever directed a commercial?
the fucking thing that he says too that would just like makes you want to jump across the table and punch him in the face is while talking to the documentary director guy, he mentions like not being about the whole starving artist thing. Is like, dude,
yes,
that is so fucking low.
Like, what?
Oh, he's the worst.
He's so bad. Like, I couldn't decide if he was more Chris Evans in his douchebag era or Vince Vaughn in his douchebag era. I think it's more Vince.
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both. I think it's probably more Vince Vaughn. Chris Evans is a little bit more loud about it in his douchebag era. But yeah, it's just, man.
Yeah, he's the fucking worst. Dude. But so like the way that she first starts establishing herself as like being competent and actually being able to take in the situation and be able to actually like fight back is, I think it's like pretty clever. So they're being attacked by these slasher dudes in masks outside the estate. They're shooting crossbow bolts through the windows near like the dining room, and I think it's really cool. Like she has them each pick up like the chair to hold it up as protection as they're running by, and you're just like, that's pretty fucking smart thinking. You're pretty on the fly to be able to think of that in like a literal life or death situation. You're just like, okay, because that's like I think that's one of the main things that that makes me think of this movie being like kind of in the same vein as the more modern like Blumhouse like resurgence of horror, where it's gotten better, where they actually like take into account like tropes of the genre as far as like, yes, slasher movie fans can go back and watch older slasher movies and they just kind of like turn their brain off, like dumb protagonist equals like it equals necessary because they have to go alone, they have to like do all this like dumb shit, they have because just to kind of like spearhead the plot, like no one's gonna properly be able to fight back because you're just there to watch like Jason or Michael Myers like fucking kill people. They're just there to kill teenagers. You can turn your brain off, but this is like actually kind of like analyzing it and showing her fight back before this was really like a popular thing to do, like where you have like the kind of like hyper competent protagonist. It just like the first time I saw it, I was like, I knew nothing about the movie at all. So the first time I saw it, I'm doing the same thing. I'm like turning my brain off because of how generic the first like 25 minutes are. Like the acting's bad. You're just kind of like feel like you're sitting down for what is going to be just a standard horror movie, but it's really not. It almost is like it ends up becoming almost like an action movie. Like where she's kind of like setting up the house, like the fucking Home Alone traps and fighting back. And I just think she's like a really cool character, and I like her background too. So the reason she is such a badass, and they don't really talk about it much until like eventually they're just like, how do you know how to do all this shit? She grew up in we didn't mention it, but she has an Australian accent that they talk about a few times over the course of the movie. Her fucking family, man, they do such a good job of just making the family such freaking assholes. Like the conversation
annoying.
Yeah, the fact that like what was this? The Drake's I think they're married.
Kelly?
Kelly's to Kelly. Like her accent's annoying. It's like, really?
Australian is annoying.
It's just like such like a fucking, and the fact that like while they're at the fucking dinner table, Drake, the asshole brother, is eyeing up and down Aaron all throughout the conversation. Like, dude, that's your brother's girlfriend.
And then immediately goes upstairs
at your family reunion.
And then immediately like goes upstairs and starts like trying to undress his wife.
Yeah, it's so gross.
Yeah, the other thing too is they work so hard at making Erin like endearing, and everyone's just talking about how much they hate her. I'm like, oh my god, you are the worst. She's like the most adorable person. And then Blender
she's so
happens.
Nice. Yeah. She's so nice to them. She's like, she even like, offers to like help out the mom with like cooking and stuff. She ends up walking to the.
And she sends her next door, which is like what, 10 miles down the road.
She just never comes back because she's just still walking to find the fucking neighbor's house. Yeah, but it's just like really interesting. Like and how fucked up is it what the slasher dudes do with the neighbor though, where they know one of them might like get out and like instinctively go to like check on the neighbor, see if they have like a working phone, just to get help in general, and they fucking like plant them where it was the neighbors were a couple who get killed, and that's the kind of like cold open to the movie is the slasher dudes with the mask. They kill this couple. They fucking set up a CD player on repeat, and then the fucking dude who was killed they set up on the fucking couch just to like buy more time of the family wasting time trying to get their help and attention. It's like so fucked up. What were you gonna say though?
I was gonna say, can we talk about fucking I just lost his name, but Hopper from Stranger Things, like this dude looking like his like second cousin or like his half brother or something.
Oh yeah.
Like, but that guy, I don't know. I got weird vibes from his quote unquote relationship with that college student. That seemed weird. She did not seem happy in that relationship. And she was sadly the first one to go in the movie. I was like, man, things are going even worse for you than I thought they would be.
Maybe they did her a favor.
Maybe.
It seemed pretty rough.
Yeah, are we at the point that we can talk about the killers yet?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about the psychology of the killers for a moment. They are military people, right? At least two of them are military. Mm-hmm. They're obviously not great guys because they're literally the thing that's driving the plot for them is just money.
Yep.
And they're not handling this like a job or a mission. It's planned like a mission, but I mean, an axe, a crossbow, like all the weapons that they choose, a machete, like the least efficient means because it's like fucking sport or something.
Yeah.
Like what they were doing with the crossbow, I don't know. A crossbow that can go through a window might go through a chair, but a rifle shot will definitely go through both, you know? Like
yeah, they're clearly unhinged.
Yeah, they're here for the fun of it as well as the money. So it's just like Jiminy Christmas. Like everything that they did, it's just like, my God, and you guys are like ex-military.
Maybe they had just stopped to like hear the conversation. It's like, man, these people are the fucking worst. So we're just gonna most dangerous game this entire family.
Right.
But they are, man. They're
Like,
what's also cool is Simon Barrett is actually the writer. Is actually the Tiger Mask guy. That's kind of
nice.
Cool.
The golf swing with the axe into, was it Kelly's head?
Yeah.
And then he just sits down on the couch next to the dead guy and just stares at her. Like,
yeah, it makes you wonder.
Fuck?
Like, it makes you wonder, just like how he fucking found these dudes.
Yeah.
It was also so like what ends up being like the main kind of like twist of it. And again, spoilers for your next. What ends up being the main twist is that half the family is basically in on it. The reason they had mentioned how like they're from a rich estate is they are basically trying to bring over a couple of witnesses that can confirm it was just a random killing that resulted in the parents dying and the inheritance going to the younger of the brothers. Because I think they talk about how like it seems to me like Drake is like the oldest brother. I want to say.
Yes, I believe so.
So he has to go so that the inheritance will go to Crispian and what is it? What's the other fucking son's name? Felix, I think. Yeah. So that's kind of like what ends up being like the kind of like final twist of it, and it's not really like a final like Shyamalan style twist because it's probably like 2/3 the way through the movie when you find that out, because they that's when they basically just like let Erin, she hears like what the plan is and she just starts going like fucking apeshit and like killing them all. The first time they start to like attack her, I think it's kind of interesting how they kind of like signal that Felix specifically is and what is his girlfriend's name?
Z.
Because they just watch, and it's a well written scene. The time that Erin is fighting the first of the masked guys and kills him, like the first time that she kills one of them, Z and Felix are watching, and as a viewer you can just take it, and especially with how much of it, like I think the family being dipshits is actually good, like narrative like plot hole fixing too. Because you can like understandably kind of envision them just freezing because they're dipshits and they don't want to help her because they view her as basically like the way that in Knives Out, like they viewed her as just like the help, and they just, everyone else is not a part of like the rich ass family is lesser than, I feel like that's almost like part of like how they look at her, just because she's not part of the family, she's not rich. They just kind of look at her as just whatever. So them just like watching Aaron fight off the guy like one-on-one, you end up finding out the reason they didn't help is because they didn't help the dude who was the slasher. That was the guy they didn't help because they were fucking in on it together.
Right.
So I just think in retrospect that's like a really clever scene. Cause like, and they also end up making like a joke out of it where she's like, by the way, thanks for the help. He's like, hey, you look like you got it. Cause she fucking, what is the weapon? Is it like the little like fucking like meat hammer thing?
Yeah. It's a meat tenderizer. It's a meat
mallet.
Yeah. But by that point, you already know that Felix and Z are in on it. And like is candor the word I'm looking for? Like their reaction, like they're there and they're frozen, but the way they're watching the scene play out is like, it seems to me like obvious that they are not a part of this family. Like they are behind it by the time we get there already. Like we've already figured out at that point that they're in on, especially when they kill the dad, and his reaction when his dad is dying is his dad touching him, not the fact that his dad's throat just got cut.
Yeah, there's like the Felix dude is like, and especially his fucking girlfriend, like they're so just like sociopathic about it. Like they're like the Felix guy basically ends up talking about how like murdering his family for an inheritance is just like such an unfortunate like inconvenience. It's like even when he's going through with this like horrible scheme, he's like he still views himself as like the victim in all of it, you know? It's like so gross.
What's really weird is he looks a lot like a guy I used to work for at the movie theater.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
So make sure you don't inherit your family fortune, Ron, and you'll be
right. Fine. But yeah, him and like Z, holy shit, what is wrong with Z, dude?
Dude, yeah.
I'm gonna fuck you in this bed with your dead mother. Is that what she says?
And then even Felix is just like, what the fuck are you talking?
That?
What's so funny too is like he doesn't even like he's so just sociopathic. He has roped in this chick that he's dating to help with the mass murder of his family.
It feels more like she's roped him into it. It's like she is more unhinged than he is.
That's an interesting point too, but it's also just like he's just so detached from reality that and they don't go into detail about, you're right, I hadn't thought about that, but they don't go into detail as far as like whose idea this actually was, other than that you end up finding out that Crispian was in on it, and that's like the final like kind of twist that
he was the first one I figured out right at the beginning of the movie, pretty much.
Yeah, because of how long he's gone. He's good. So
when he is the first one to volunteer to run out the door, I didn't trust him, because
especially with how much of like you can just tell how much of like a coward he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell it's kind of like staged.
And then when he does go, and she eventually like goes outside and is like hiding behind the tree, I was like, okay, and here's where she finds his body, and she didn't. I'm like, okay, well, he's in on it then.
Yeah, he's in on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like, so you don't know whose idea this was, but if it was Felix's idea, he trusts this girl.
I don't think he's smart enough.
Yeah, I like too how he fucking calls out about the fucking cell phone jammer. He's like, yeah, you can buy it for like $30 on the internet, because he fucking did it.
That's my biggest plot hole in this entire movie.
What's that?
The instant he switched that on, the police would have been there. It is FCC regulations that makes those highly illegal, and the cell phone companies can detect it jamming their network. As soon as you switch it on, they know it, and the police arrive at that location. That would
have been interesting if and they could have fixed that by just their police response being that, and just make that like a subplot of like the cops coming to check it out, and then them not actually ever contacting, and then you can fix that. But yeah, again, that detail is the type of detail that I can forgive because it's a fucking horror movie, and like they don't have to go into like the specifics if they don't like, because. And they might have even had like a conversation about it where it's just like, well, we can spend like 5 minutes of screen time of the fucking cell phone company like reporting to the cops, and the cops finding out that way. But it's like, who fucking cares? Like, it doesn't really impact. I think the believability of it, because it's a fucking horror movie, and I don't need it to be like exactly correct. You know what I mean?
Right.
But let's talk about the is it Amy who is the daughter? How fucked it, dude? When she
Aubrey? No, that's the mom.
I think it's Amy who is the daughter.
Yeah.
The fact that all of the brothers, and what's really fucked up too. So like basically like all the brothers. So the older brother has been crossbowed in the back. You can kind of understand why he wouldn't be the first person to run out.
Right.
But the other brothers and the dad just be like, yeah, it's cool. We'll just let the daughter just like fucking run outside, be the first person. Doesn't that seem like, especially like for like the dad, so shitty? And you're just like, man, fuck these people. These people fucking suck.
Yeah.
Because like I just can't imagine like a circumstance like I feel like
where you send your child,
where you send your kid out. They should have had the dad also get like almost like mortally injured.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the only thing that would allow that to happen. But the way that she dies is so fucked. Like, dude, running out into the piano wire, like that is one of those things where you get like the fucking mirror neurons going, dude. You're just like, oh fuck that, no thanks. It's hard to watch.
I'm looking at her IMDb. She's in a lot of shit that I have seen.
Like what?
Well, apparently she was in that Pet Cemetery remake also, but
I did not see that.
She's in Stranger Things. She's Becky Ives. I'm having a hard time placing that character. She's in Alien Covenant. I said a lot of things I've seen, but apparently that's it. I ran across those two like back to back, so I assumed it would be a lot, but I'm not seeing anything else. But yeah, apparently she's in Alien Covenant and Stranger Things, both of which I have seen, and I'm just having a real hard time placing her in those.
Placing
things.
her, yeah. It's like there's a couple others in the movie too. Where you're just like, I swear to God, I've seen them in something. And you just can't place them. But at that point, I almost like think the dad.
Oh, I found an image on her IMDb of her in Stranger Things. She is the one taking care of Eleven's mom.
Oh, okay.
She's the one that lives with Eleven's mom.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then...
I also just found...
Oh my God. Is she who I think she is? Is she the one that slips on the blood in Alien Covenant?
Oh, in Covenant? I think you're right. I think that is her.
I think that's her.
I also just like you talked about how like you thought the guy who gets killed at the very beginning had like a very bad vibe.
Yeah.
Look at the dude's like I just sent you this the text of the guy. Look at his fucking IMDb profile page.
It looks
like the mugshot of like a fucking serial killer.
It looks like the poster for an Eraserhead remake.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's very, very bizarre. Let's talk about too like so towards the ending of the movie, I think there's a scene that's like pretty cool where she rigs up once she goes in full Home Alone mode and is just murdering everyone because she's pissed at everyone for being assholes and like setting up the family. I think the scene is shot.
Jeff.
Yes.
Do you know who he is?
The dude we were just talking about?
Yeah.
Who is he?
If I'm thinking correctly, I know exactly what this is referring to. He's in Southbound. He's the DJ.
Oh.
That mean he's the guy on the radio?
I think that is the guy on the radio. That's pretty cool.
Dude. That's my favorite character in Southbound.
The DJ.
The DJ. The DJ is amazing.
It's pretty great.
Oh my God. I want this guy for fucking like Joyride 2.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. Totally watch the fuck out of that. He's also the flamethrower guy in Until Dawn.
I haven't played that.
You should watch the Rage Select playthrough. It's pretty funny.
But yeah, sorry to derail you, but I saw that. I was like, oh my God.
That is a movie I feel like I need to rewatch for Halloween this year. Is Southbound.
Yeah, I'm going through all my streaming services to the horror section, just adding a bunch of stuff to my list and going through them.
Yeah, gotta do it. It's the best time of the fucking year, man.
I got really excited for half a second. I saw Ritual, and then I was like, oh, wait, not The Ritual. Got it.
That's another one I might end up having to rewatch just for the grandma punch, man. You gotta cue it up.
Hashtag grandma punch.
Inject it into my veins.
That sounds like a Pornhub category.
And then you had to go. Are you the fucking Z of this podcast? You gotta go make it fucking weird.
Oh my god! Like you got the milfs and you got the grandma punch.
Okay, so let's talk. I want to talk about some more of
moves right along.
Yeah, no, this here. I want to talk about more of like some of the specific instances of where Aaron is just like fucking Frank Castling some of the fucking asshole slashers in this. How like ingenious is it to lay out the nail trap thing where you put out like one board further away to make them focus on that and think they're in the clear, just to step on one closer up against the banister thing?
Dude,
I just think that's genius, because that is something I would totally fall for. I would see that and think, oh man, what a fucking idiot. I could clearly
So can I tell you about my experience with this?
Yes.
My dad did that exact thing.
Oh no shit.
And I was there to witness it all.
Okay, tell me more.
So the house, I think you've seen the house that they're living in now, right? Like maybe once.
I think so.
So when they had that house built, and when that house was under construction, you know, when you're having a house under construction, you go to it to make sure like all the doors are the correct fucking size and stuff like that, right? And we went to check on the house, and my dad stepped on a board that had a nail sticking up, and it literally nailed to his foot. Just like when this guy walked, the board went with him because it was nailed to his foot. And then what does my dad do? Because I mean, think about how that just catches you off guard and surprises you, right?
Yeah.
What does my dad do when he's like freaking out trying to get this? He's trying to shake it off when he's walking, but it's nailed to his foot, and his brain hasn't figured that out yet, right? He steps on a second one on his other foot and nails a board to each foot.
Oh my god.
It goes right through his shoe like he's not even wearing one. And he does it to each foot. And I was there to witness the whole, and I was there to witness him pulling it out, like the whole length of the nail, pulling it out of his foot and everything. And I saw this, and it was like the syringe scene in Saw. I was just like,
instant PTSD.
Instant flashbacks to my dad walking around with what we're going to call homemade clogs. Because it was, like he horseshoed himself is what he did.
Yep. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And the evening ends in a tetanus shot.
they were not lucky horseshoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that fucking sucks though.
Yeah,
but that is.
I just wanted to put that out there. My dad did that
totally
exact
something.
thing.
That is totally something I would do.
Because it's such a shock, and you know, it feels like 10 minutes when it's happening to you. On my perspective, it was about the span of 3 seconds that this all played out. And by the end of it, he's sitting on the ground with a board nailed to each foot, and he's just pulling these like 2-inch nails out of his foot. Ugh.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So anyway,
oh man,
moving right along.
No thanks. No thanks. Do not want. But there's a when she is going like Frank Castle mode, just like killing some of these assholes. I like how they stage the shot of the camera flash going off in like the basement. I think it's pretty cool. I'm always like a sucker for that trope of like you only see like glimpses of something being lit up every few seconds. And I think
don't
this is,
breathe.
Like, yeah, fuck yeah, dude. We need to cover that.
Yeah, we do.
So we have an excuse to watch the sequel too. I still haven't seen the sequel, man. I feel like a fucking failure.
I forgot there's a sequel.
Yeah, it came out a few months ago, I think. And
there's also a sequel to Halloween, by the way. It came out last year, Halloween Kills.
Yeah, I saw this. I think they have the third movie coming out.
Yeah, I still haven't seen Kills yet. It's on HBO.
Yeah, I watched it pretty soon. I ended up liking the first one a lot better, but I think you should still I think you should still watch it just because of how like connected the three are going to be. It is like a basically like 5-hour long movie, like with how connected they are, where it, like this is basically like the third one is going to be like the third act of them basically like being like a Lord of the Rings epic of like 4 hours of Halloween. It seems like not even just like sequels, but like it's the same fucking movie like broken up almost. So you should watch the second one just so you can get queued up for the third one, because I think the third one is gonna be pretty cool. The first one's amazing.
the first
really
one's incredible.
like that first one.
For anyone that hasn't seen it, like, what an amazing way to soft reboot a franchise in its own universe and make callbacks without like pissing off the audience. Like the way that they made callbacks while flipping them on their head was amazing.
Yeah, love it.
The gunshot and falling out the window. That's all I will say.
Yeah, it's fucking absolutely like brought an instant smile to my face as a fan. It's like so good. So I like the way that the basement shot is set up to where it's just like she's queued up a little like auto flash of her camera to attract one of the asshole slashers. Another thing that fucking happens down there that is fucked up. How hard is it to watch? Drake, who is a fucking prick, but goes out in a really fucked up way, like where he gets just stabbed by like 7 different screwdrivers by his brother.
So,
and what is that fucking sentence that he says where he's just like, why can't you just fucking die? This isn't easy for me either.
yeah.
Oh my god, it's like, oh, I fucking hate these people so much.
Me being the dick that I am, I was like, good, put another one at him. Like, go ahead.
Because he's a colossal fucking shitbag, but that's still tough. God. That is still a fucking hard way to go, dude. Just getting
what carpenter's tools?
His like visual just confusion.
Yeah, well, he's the one early in the movie who's like, who would do this? And he's confronting his own brother who's stabbing him with repeatedly. Every carpenter tool in the fucking toolbox.
And again, he makes it all about himself. He's just like, this isn't easy for me either. Like, such a little fucking asshole Felix is, man.
Yeah.
Where it's like, even that's like the one death in the movie where you're like, you kind of just like, man, yeah, like you thought you were gonna be like full blown rooting for it, and if you're a sociopath like Ron, you were still full blown rooting for it. But I find it hard to watch. Just get like the idea of just him getting like fucking
by his brother.
By his brother. When
he's looking his brother in the eyes as it's happening.
Yeah, it's fucked up. But let's talk about the how unfortunate is the fucking axe at the end. I think the axe is kind of like a funny like continuing like joke throughout the movie almost, where she sets up this like super fucking elaborate axe that is like literally mounted to a fucking brick to give it more momentum.
Well, I mean, Oculus, right?
Yeah. I always get the Oculus flashbacks to watching this now.
the Oculus sweats.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's when I'm near light bulbs.
That's when I'm near a mirror. So I thought that's how Crispin was going to go out.
Me too. They set it up like that's how it's going to be, and I like the ongoing joke about how she takes the time to set up this fucking elaborate, ingenious axe trap on the main door, and every time someone like walks through a different window, she's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
And then it ends up being this fucking cop. I think the editing of like the cop shooting her is actually like really well done, because they spend this like you'll talk about others like
someone finally used a gun. Oh, it's the cop.
It's the cops.
Yeah.
But the fucking asshole brother Crispian actually tries to like, he's such a freaking douchebag. He's so weak. He tries to weasel out by like that one line that just gives me the fucking like heebie-jeebies. Is like where he's like, oh, maybe a possible engagement. They're so fucking full of themselves. He thinks that's like a draw. Like that's like a selling point.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
it's really unprofessional.
It's really unprofessional.
It's really unprofessional.
These guys. What the fuck did you just say? What is the like? We're having a dinner. No, I'm having a conversation with my brother.
Yeah, I loved that line so much.
It's really good.
When I figured out he was in on it, I was like, well, you were my favorite because you were the only one that made any fucking sense in this family. Oh, but yeah, it's really unprofessional.
But they had the weasel fucking boyfriend of the main lady is like fucking trying to like fucking weasel his way out, telling her like, if you kill me you get nothing, we still can make this work, you know, if you stay with me maybe there's an engagement, who knows, you know, you get like all this fucking money. And he's just like, bro, she is covered with the blood of like 8 different people. Read the room, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Her reaction is designed to make you think like she's thinking about it, but it's more the fact that she actually loved this asshole.
Yeah.
And then she has to kill him. Because there can be only one.
There could be only yeah. And it was about to be the cop until the so the cop so
after the cop died though, man, that quickening that happened,
oh yeah,
just blew every fucking window out that was still intact.
Yeah,
there's a lot of window murder in this movie.
There is a lot of window murder.
Like if you were a local business that like deals in windows, you are made when they redo this house.
That's how the next guy's gonna make his fortune, man. Just like selling windows.
And then the whole cycle starts anew. It's fucking Oculus, but with windows.
Oh God.
Oh, we cracked it.
Yeah, we did. We can go home now.
Like a
we
window.
can rest now.
We can rest now.
Dude, dude. But the editing of this scene is very drawn out. The scene I'm talking about where Crispian is like basically trying to like sweet talk her into, we can still make this work. We can get married. You know, like all this fucking money.
I love how mustache twirly you make him sound when you quote him.
For some reason, I was actually going into John McClane. It's like, get out to the coast and get together, have a few laughs. I'm not entirely sure why Crispian and Your Next is John McClane, but he is.
He's like the furthest thing. Yeah. He came up with this elaborate murder plot and couldn't even partake. And you're
what is
him to John McClane.
He's like, oh, dude, you know I'm a pacifist. Yeah. I couldn't be around for all that violence. Like, oh, fuck you, dude. It's like the biggest fucking scumbags. It's like, oh my God.
I feel like that was some weird political statement.
Probably. Jesus Christ, he's this fucking family, man.
I have no strong feelings about this movie one way or another. Is that the Futurama quote? Like, I have no strong feelings one way or another.
Yeah.
On the neutral planet.
Yeah, but like the way the fucking the way that the fucking poor cop.
Oh God.
Really did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like, cause like what are you gonna do when you see what just happened happen?
Turn and
you
run.
Look around. Yeah.
I'm calling the fucking Avengers. They're 10 miles to the east.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. But so at one point she talks about how like even if you can send a text out to 911, it becomes like a voicemail, right? Yeah, you only need like one bar to be able to do that. Eventually she gets like a notification that like her alert went through. So the cops are eventually gonna show up. The cop shows up right at the exact second she is killing Crispian. So the cop shoots her kind of like in the like upper chest, but
you know
not
what it
non-vital.
Reminded me of?
What?
Resident Evil 7 with the cop.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that scene?
Vaguely. It's been a while since I played
He's the one that gives you the knife, I recall, and like your character's all pissed off you don't get a gun.
Mm.
And then it's right before the you're about to see something wonderful like part. And then like he regenerates or something and comes back to life when the cop is in the garage. And then he like takes out the cop with like a pickaxe or something. But it was very reminiscent because the cop is hanging in through the window from the outside, and that's the way the cop is doing in Resident Evil 7.
Yeah,
like near the beginning of that game. The game kind of mirrors this quite a bit with this poor bastard.
Dude, this poor fucking guy.
This poor cop.
This poor cop, probably 5 days from retirement.
Yeah.
So
he's too old for this shit.
He shoots her kind of like upper chest, like near the shoulder, like non-vital. He goes back to his cop car, calls for backup to report it, and then goes to the fucking front door, and the fucking movie just ends with her fucking brick axe strap, as if she didn't have enough shit to explain.
Yeah.
Like, this poor girl.
What I thought was going to happen, what I honestly thought was going to happen, is that just before she kills Crispian, the cop was going to shoot her, and then he was going to walk away with everything. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Yeah, just that, like, really, really. Actually, one thing I did read, they actually had an alternate ending to this,
where that happens.
Where that does not happen, but what happens was, she is shot and killed after killing Crispian, so she dies too next to him. That is apparently one that they had. I think they had shot, but it was never like tested because I think they just wanted her to live. But yeah, that is totally just like an ending you could probably see them discussing, because it is something you would think about. It's one of those kind of like, oh god, I don't know like what to compare it to, but it's just like where you just like you walk away feeling even more gross just because the fucking asshole got away with it, and that is another trope that has happened from time to time in some horror movies like this. So, but yeah, the poor fucking cop, dude. It's so sad. And she is like,
everybody really liked him.
Everybody really like. It's fucked up too, because after she gets shot, she knows what's about to happen because she starts to crawl towards the front door, and she's like, putting her arms out to like hollering out for him to like, no, stop. And then like once the axe hits, that's like your next credits like start rolling. But that's another thing too about how like I think the parallel between this and Ready or Not happens a lot is because the ending of Ready or Not is very similar, and just like, yeah, they lived, but how the fuck do you explain like all this shit? She's the last one alive,
Yeah.
And the cop with the fucking Jack Torrance axe in his head is not exactly helping the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked. That's another person that fucking dude who dies at the beginning. His fucking IMDb profile page looks very Jack Torrance. With his it's like third act Jack Torrance, dude.
Third act Jack.
That sounds like a Borderlands villain.
I feel like that's the name of our next podcast.
Third act Jack.
Third act Jack.
I gotta write that down.
Yes, we need to make t-shirts.
Oh my god. But yeah, that's I think that's pretty much everything I had to talk about. I just find this movie like very interesting because as you were watching it, did you start to pick up on a lot of those like little details that would end up becoming bits and pieces of like other horror movies of the last few years too? I was just like curious like what your reaction to it was, or were you just kind of like self-contained while watching it within the movie? I was kind of curious on what your take on it was, because I found this movie very interesting looking back on it, like I've talked about, seeing all these other films for the past couple of years especially.
Yeah, it that aspect kind of I missed picking up on a lot of those notes because I think you're more into horror than I am. I'm more into,
that's true.
I'm more into like monsters and creature features more than like slashers and stuff.
You're more into Independence Day than like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, I was gonna go with like, Mimic or like Relic or like anything like that. But yeah, a lot of that kind of went over my head a little bit. It is worth mentioning though, like the state of horror that you mentioned during the time period that this was kind of coming out was like, I don't know, what, 70s and 80s were probably like when it still had some problems but was still really good. Like we still talk about like Halloween and stuff like that a lot. And then people started figuring out you don't need to put a lot of effort in to make a quick dollar off of horror. You just get a bunch of nobodies together in one location, single location film with a handful of cameras, and you get like maybe one professional experienced stuntman to wear a mask, and boom, you're making a few $1 million off of a few like tens of thousands or 100,000.
Yeah,
and
it's like you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, it was just a license to print money, and they did that all the way up till right around the time this movie kind of came out. This is kind of like we've talked before about like the state of like superhero movies and stuff in the 90s, and then how like that started to change with like the Nolan Batman movies and Iron Man, and horror's kind of had the same trajectory where as the same thing with superhero movies like we were talking about, horror has kind of figured out that is true. However, the return that you get if you actually put in a little bit of effort, and like horror still kind of is known for a lot of the same things. Usually they are still to this day are still like single location, very low budget, but the low budget doesn't mean you can't be creative with it, right?
Yeah.
And at the time this movie came out, I'm sure my reaction to it would probably be very similar to yours had I seen it back then.
And especially like
because it has a lot of the weird. It falls into a lot of the same traps and pitfalls like we've talked about with like movies from the '90s, whereas we start moving into like the late aughts, the early tens, with like superhero movies and whatever else we've talked about. I don't know. It's been 2 years of this podcast. I can't remember now, but it still falls in. It's kind of in that weird intermediate stage we've talked about before, where it falls into some of those pitfalls. But at the same time, it's doing some stuff that's really interesting and kind of ahead of its time. And the ahead of its time is probably why no one's heard of this movie. Like, usually things that are ahead of its time is when you go back and rediscover it later and you're like, holy shit, this movie was like 11 years ago. And it was doing things that we see commonplace now. Don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of shitty horror movies out there because they're still fast, easy money. But we also have a lot more really good horror movies now than we had been getting. It's just there's so many of them. It sometimes doesn't seem like things have changed, but that's not true. Things have changed a lot in this genre.
There's actually, like, at this point in time right now and over the past like 5 years, I'd say, when it's been kind of like a horror resurgence, like you not only have concepts that are like really, really cool and interesting, but you also just have like directors that are like draws like Jordan Peele. We talked about Mike Flanagan with got Oculus, how he's kind of like a just on a complete tear when you look at his last few films. And
Oculus is a good example of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
that all takes place in an empty house with mainly two people and a mirror. I mean,
and it's incredible. Yeah. But what I was gonna say was like you actually have like ongoing like filmmakers that are within the horror genre like draws right now. When this was coming out in like the like late aughts, it was Saw, and that was it. There was like nothing else. It was just Saw. Like
Hostel.
How many Hostel. How many fucking Saw movies there ended up being? Was like 9.
They're still making them.
Yeah, like but the original batch, I think they had 9, and I think
the original
like,
batch
Saw,
also a good name for a podcast.
The original batch.
The original batch
sounds like a Gremlins podcast.
It's like there was the original batch, and then there was the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch. We don't talk about the Bad Batch.
Didn't they make that into an animated series? By the way.
The Bad Batch was the Star Wars Disney Plus show, I think. I haven't seen it, though, because I haven't seen Clone Wars. I've seen some Clone Wars. But like around this time, like, there were no ongoing horror directors. There were no original concepts really being made. I think, like, the only, like, fucking original concept around this time, like, the time period we're talking about, was, like, The Descent, and that was it. Yeah. Like, there was just nothing else. It was just a fucking wasteland of garbage. And like Saw sequel after Saw sequel, and then copies of that, and then like horror became like just torture porn and lost all of its creativity. And
well, they didn't need it because you could make a quick buck.
Yeah, you can make a quick buck, but they also like started to even lose that. Like, do you remember like I think it was 2009 when even the Friday the 13th reboot happened, and even that was like a dud as far as like box office draw, because people are just kind of like fucking tired of it. And I think like how you said like this movie was like really ahead of its time is like one of the reasons I want to talk about it so much. Is I think it's like fascinating just how much this has creativity to it that just was non-existent back then. And I do think I do agree too. I think if you had seen this back when it came out, prior to like being in the mindset of like like post Ready or Not and post these kind of like low budget awesome horror movies that are happening all over the place, like a bunch of the Blumhouse stuff that we've talked about, like your Sinisters,
A24,
A24 stuff, like post Hereditary and stuff like this. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting where you can just kind of like follow the breadcrumbs back to Your Next, and it's a movie like a lot of people have not seen, but it's interesting to look back on, and that's why I want to have it on the show. It sucks too. Like you obviously like didn't like it as much as I do, but just I can't disagree with you at all. All like your points are all accurate as far as like like acting's bad, stuff like that. It's just I think it's interesting
when the acting is good, it's good, but when it's bad, it's bad. Like there's like almost no middle ground with like the quality of the acting. But when the movie gets going and the shit starts flying, it picks up and it feels a lot more natural. A lot of the beginning stuff with the family felt really forced, whereas like with Knives Out, like I have fucking seen that family in real life. Like Knives Out, that felt very real. The relationship between everyone in that movie, and in this movie, it just seemed. I've been trying to think of a word because I do like this movie. I do have my problems with it, but everything I keep thinking of sounds more negative than I intend it to. The one that's coming to mind that is kind of neutral territory is manufactured. I feel like there's a lot of manufactured tension, especially in the beginning when you're talking about it's kind of. I feel like it's trying to play with tropes or set those expectations of those type tropes, but that didn't really land for me. It just felt like it was falling into those pitfalls we talked about before. So it had like, with the dad walking around at the beginning of the movie in the house, seemed like really manufactured. A lot of the relationships, like especially at the dinner table, until shit got interesting with the line I've been quoting the whole thing, which is that's very unprofessional. A lot of those relationships seemed very manufactured. It just didn't feel natural.
And also in this movie's defense, when we are comparing it to Knives Out, is the IMDb page of Knives Out.
Right.
That fucking cast.
Right.
Those guys could make like the phone book feel natural to read.
Right.
Because they're just fucking incredible. And Rian Johnson is a fucking genius.
Well, apparently Michael Shannon could just make up a phone book on the fly. So
I love that was fucking improv.
Ray Iota. Like, he doesn't eat shit.
Oh man, so good.
Apparently the other one that he ad-libbed also was like him trying to stuff the fucking cookies into Chris Evans' mouth. Apparently that wasn't planned either. And he's just like, hey, you want a cookie? Have another cookie and all that stuff. And it's just like, because I heard, I think I plugged on this before, the Directors Guild podcast. On the Knives Out episode where they're interviewing Rian Johnson, he keeps talking about how anytime they have the family argument scene, like he just wanted to focus on Michael Shannon because everything he did was so shocking and unplanned, and like he was the best one of the whole cast at the arguments.
I love how just like off the wall unhinged Michael Shannon is, and that's like the reason he's so good at playing those characters is that's just who Michael Shannon is as a dude. He's just fucking nuts, like, and it works out beautifully.
Apparently, like, he calls cut, and then Chris Evans just bursts out laughing and has to, like, unbury himself from cookies and stuff. Like, what is happening right now? Because Michael Shannon is in my face screaming, here, have another cookie, and he's just covered in cookies.
That's one of my favorite things to learn about Knives Out, too, is just, like, how much they all fucking can't stand each other and hate each other in the movie, their characters, but like the cast and crew is having just the time of their life and is having a blast making that shit. Is so funny.
I would not eat one iota of shit. So good.
Oh man.
But here's the other thing too. Like my thing coming into this is I like Ready or Not better, which does feel like a bit of a remake of this movie.
It is shocking how similar Ready or Not is to this.
And I, did make the quip earlier about how I was kind of disappointed in their motivations just being money and greed. When Ready or Not is Satan. The motivation is Satan. Like,
I think the family... What's interesting is I think the family as a whole is written much better. And I think Ready or Not, even though while I do really, really like You're Next, and especially having seen it first, the first time I was watching Ready or Not, I was picking up on so many of the parallels, and I was like, man, this is like a borderline ripoff in some instances. Even though it's making it better, it is shockingly similar in its like structure and its overall kind of like ideas like behind the movie. Obviously, like that is more comedy focused, I would say too, which makes like a difference.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun overall to watch. when it is so far comedy, you know, versus just like this movie has a few lines, but this movie is really just like a narrative, like a narrative focused horror movie, not really like the kind of like horror comedy that Ready or Not is. So even though they are like shockingly similar, they are like they have different tones to them.
Well, when your character's motivation is a satanic game of hide and seek, you can't take yourself as seriously as your next does, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying your next like takes itself too seriously or anything. It takes itself just as seriously as it should, because the shit at the beginning, the things that make you laugh in this movie are designed to make you laugh, and that all lands. It's I don't know how to come across without it sounding like I don't like this movie, because I do like this movie, but I have the exact opposite reaction you do, because I saw Ready or Not first. So that's where, even though this movie came first, and I understand that, that's where I'm drawing my parallels from, whereas you did the opposite with Ready or Not. And I can't help but do that because I'm human, you know? So
yeah. But when you break down the logistics of how your next happened first and how similar they are, you're just like, I would be fascinated to hear what Wingard and Simon Barrett have to say about it. Like I bet someone has interviewed them about it, because I don't know how they couldn't feel like I would just be interested to hear like their reaction to Ready or Not and just how similar they are. But I will say, while I like Ready or Not overall better as a movie, and while I think it's better written, I like what Your Next does with the main character more. I find her actually like competently fighting back and like becoming like the slasher cooler than, as much as I love Samara Weaving and her character in Ready or Not, just being like a fish out of water. And while hers is a more like realistic approach, and she doesn't have the background to be competent in the situation, and she's mostly just like running the whole time, I just really like. I think we've even talked about it on the podcast about how like, I really like it when characters, especially in like not even just like a horror like situation as far as like the story, but when people are not like idiots, is a big draw to me, when they actually are competent and they're intelligent and they don't just fall back into tropes that are necessary for the plot to be driven forward. Like they have to be dumb because we need the plot to move forward, when like the exact opposite is the point of the movie. I find it interesting, and especially for when it was made. So that's like my whole thing with Your Next. It's like I absolutely agree. It's not like a fucking it's like I think it's a fun movie, but it's not. It's like far from being a perfect movie. But I think it is interesting to look back on, and it sounds like, even though you didn't like super enjoy it, you did find it like interesting to kind of like reflect on, and that was just like my whole point as far as the show.
And I enjoyed watching it. You know, I didn't have a problem with the. I mean, okay, I voiced some concerns. I did have some problems, but overall, like I had no problem sitting down and watching this movie, and it didn't feel like a slog or anything. Like I legitimately enjoyed it, but I'm looking at it. I'm looking through the telescope backwards, right? I'm Jeff Goldblum in the Lost World, Jurassic Park, holding the binoculars the wrong way, because while Ready or Not, like I realized watching this movie is, and this sounds more negative than I mean for it to, but it's a ripoff of this movie.
It does it better.
I kind of like the Kmart version better, you know. So
and it's again, the tone of it I think changes, because like, it being so more focused towards comedy and it being legitimately funny as fuck at times. Yeah. You know, it changes like your reaction to it too. Yeah. But I do really like the, similar to Ready or Not, I think once the shit hits the fan, I think the pacing is really good in Your Next, as far as like when she starts fighting back. Yes. I think the last like 40-minute chunk of the movie where it's just her kind of going ape shit, I think is super well paced and really fun to watch. And when you watch just when you watch slasher movies, like what's funny too is I wonder if like Prey made me think of this, you know, like the whole the hunted becomes the hunter thing. Right. I think is super cool, and I'm always such a fucking nerd for that in horror, because it just so rarely happens.
I am so glad someone applied that to a Predator movie.
It's so good,
and even switched the title of the movie around on top of it.
It's so fucking good, dude.
It's so good. Yeah, it's I said it was an interesting experiment, and I enjoyed it. I'm glad I watched it. I probably would watch it again on my own, I'd probably sit down with someone and watch it.
I think it'd be a fun one to like throw back some beers with a buddy with.
Yeah. And I would, if I was flipping through the channels and it was on, I'd probably stop there and watch it. You know, I wouldn't seek it out again.
I'd make the blenders. I'd make a GIF of the blender seeing my desktop wallpaper, but that's fine.
Oh no! Oh no!
Man, dude, that scene is so fucking awesome. When she's already killed them.
Felix, right?
Dude, yeah.
Man, talk about scrambling your brain.
You want to talk about it too? Okay, one thing we haven't talked about: the sound effects of some of the attacks are really good. When she's hitting the fucking dude with the meat tenderizer.
Yeah.
They were probably just tenderizing steaks, but it sounds so unsettling when it is applied in the scene. And when she, even before the actual like turning on of the blender happens, when she hits him over the head to break the blender and fucking stabs downward onto his skull with the open blender, the sound effect of that is so fucked up and good. And I just wanted to applaud the sound effect guys.
I also appreciate the detail that blender looked like it was from the 1800s. Like, that thing had to have weighed 30 pounds on its own and have no safeties. Like, yeah. There's a lot of blenders today won't run unless it's on a certain way or anything. A blender that is that fucking old has no safeties. It probably is a 2-prong plug. It's probably not even a 3-prong plug.
Yeah, it is a murder weapon waiting to happen.
Yeah. And, you know, put it on someone's head, turn it on. It's just going to sink under its own weight through the person. Yeah.
But again, I appreciate you checking it out for the show. And while it is by far a perfect movie, and I've voiced like similar grievances I have with like some of the issues that you've had with the movie, because I also felt like they were problems with the movie. I do think it's been fun to just reflect on and talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like this versus the modern state of horrors is interesting to me, and you know, like you mentioned, like I'm more the horror guy, so this is more up my alley. And just like looking back at like horror throughout the years is always interesting to me, because I feel like it is like one of the genres that just drastically shifts like more than any other. Right. Maybe comedy. Like I feel like comedy and horror are like two things that are just like they're always like so specific to the time and like what is in vogue, what is working.
Right.
And I just find it like an interesting talking point for looking back, both as a movie nerd and as a horror nerd, just kind of like looking back to way stuff changes over time, what stuff ends up being like ahead of its time in a good way, and what stuff ends up being ahead of its time in an unfortunate way, where it's like something can be creative and it's almost like too creative for its own good, and it becomes like the fucking dude, like the Thing was kind of like a box office dud. And that just like blows my mind, because that's one of the like the most perfect movies I've ever seen, and like my favorite like just fucking movie ever. And just for it to be like people just look at it like is just like mind-boggling to me. So that's that. Yeah, I just sorry for rambling. I just wanted to talk back again, kind of like my points. But before we start doing the sign off, what is going to be our next episode, Ron? If you didn't have any other talking points to cover,
our next episode, Jeff, is going to be The Thing, starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh God. Have you been holding out this one? Like on this one, just like the fucking ace in the hole to, because there's gonna be some grievances shared.
This is really unprofessional. No, it's The Exorcist.
The Exorcist. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years. And
interesting, yeah. I revisited it a couple of years ago, so I'm really stoked to have
last time I watched it. It held up really well.
It does.
It's a legendary horror movie for a multitude of reasons, and I'm kind of interested to just grab me a big old bowl of pea soup and sit down on the couch and and turn on The Exorcist, man.
Yeah, just fucking crab walk your way over to the TV. Like, and you just get the.
You want to talk sound design in a movie, or if you want to talk about movies where the music is the monster, like this movie has a monster, but the music in The Exorcist, like I'm super psyched that makes one of the best movie posters in movie poster history.
Absolutely, yeah. The Exorcist is fucking great.
Yeah, it's been, like I said, 20 years since I've watched it, and it's on HBO. I was flipping through HBO, and I was like, ooh. There was another movie I almost did that's not nearly as good, but one of the reasons why I want it is I've already told you before, I have a double feature I want to do sometimes. I think it would be interesting to talk about. I would almost want to even cover them in the same episode because they're basically the same movie. There's a more modern remake of this other one. So I decided not to pick it and went with The Exorcist instead because it's just been so long since I've seen it.
Did you want to say what the other ones were? Because now I'm just curious about what the kind of like double feature combo.
Since I already blew your fuse with The Thing, it probably.
I thought you were actually picking that, and like
yeah. So
I mean, you know I'm always down to yell into the microphone because that you will hear me yelling in the microphone.
No, if we do that, if we do that movie, it's going to be a commentary because
while drinking,
you want me maybe even
you want
live,
me boozed up for that,
maybe even live on YouTube because while you downright loathe that movie, I love it in the most ironic way possible, while also still legitimately liking some of the parts of it. So
fuck that, I hate that movie.
I think you set me up to like it because all I ever heard from you is how bad it is, and I watched it. And I was like, it's fine. Like,
I hate it. It's so bad, and it pays me. The actors are really good.
Yeah,
like the cast is fantastic. And
Mary Elizabeth Winstead is on the SPR Mount Rushmore,
and like isn't like, oh god. There's a few other like actors that I'm blanking on the rest of it too. I think Joel Edgerton might be in that movie. I like Joel Edgerton a lot too. It's like, dude, what the fuck happened?
But no, have you ever? I think you told me one time you've never seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
It's been on my short list for a while because they covered it on Unfilmable. Gary and Cole did. So I always have to like watch the movie.
Yeah.
If I'm interested at all before I listen to like a breakdown of it because I want to be able to follow along and not have stuff spoiled for me. So yeah, I have not seen it, but it is on my short list.
I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now. In the context of when it was made, it holds up pretty good. Like it's a very 70s movie.
Yeah.
As far as like just holding up in general through the years, like The Exorcist or something. It's not that great a movie in hindsight, but if you think about like other movies that were happening in the decade,
yeah,
you can kind of understand why it was what it was. And I don't think it was. I could be wrong. I don't think it was a smash hit at the time either. I think it got that later, but it's
a cult following.
Yeah, but it's got Jeff Goldblum. It's got Leonard Nimoy. It's got Donald Sutherland. So yeah, it's got a great cast to it, and there was a something of a remake years later.
Invasion
with Nicole Kidman, which I know that's basically like Halle Berry to you. And
yeah, I'm not a big fan. I can watch movies with her in it and not like be fucking like angry the whole time, but I definitely think she's overrated. But that won't be like a negative factor. She's just kind of like there for me.
But yeah, it's Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig back when every movie had to have the two of them in it together.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was that Golden Compass? Was that the other one that had?
Yes. And Daniel Craig was my favorite character in that, and he was the perfect fucking actor for that role. But yeah,
man, the time when the time when he compared the Golden Compass to a donut hole, it's fucking genius, man.
Right? All with a Kentucky Fried accent or whatever it is Chris Evans says.
CSI KFC.
Yeah, CSI KFC. Oh, it's so good. I just want to go watch Knives Out now.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. I gotta go watch that now. It's like, especially with the sequel coming out soon, I could watch Knives Out like every weekend and never get bored.
Absolutely.
It's so fucking good.
Every time I watch it, I still notice something new.
Because Rian Johnson is a genius.
Absolutely. But yeah, sometime I want to do a double feature of those two movies because Invasion, for some reason, got slammed. And
I remember that, yeah.
I got paid to watch it, and I would have watched it for free. I would have paid to watch it.
I liked it. I think you are the first person who has ever just outright like remembered that it existed. Because it seemed like people like either hated it or were very like in the middle on it, where it became kind of like an afterthought. So I'm interested in it more because you had talked about it, because I had never heard a single other person talk like Sugar about it.
Yeah, it's not the greatest horror movie ever made or anything. Like it's very much like of the genre, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just didn't see what was so wrong with it. Like I like Nicole Kidman. It's kind of funny. She's like the anti Ben Affleck to me, because I feel like she's just Nicole Kidman and everything, but I like Nicole Kidman, so I'm fine with it.
Yeah, she has some stuff where she's like shockingly out of left field. Like she's either herself or she's like almost like unrecognizable. Like she has moments where she
disappears.
She disappears, and like it's usually when the character is like incredibly specific. But if the character isn't like Benoit Blanc level specific, I feel like she does do that thing you're talking about, where she just kind of becomes herself. Same with Halle Berry. And what's the other one? Jennifer Moore? Is that the other person we always talk about? Julianne Moore. Oh yeah. That's what you always talk about.
Julianne Moore makes me angry more than anyone, just because 9 times out of 10, she's just Julianne Moore paying the bills. Yeah. But that 1 time out of 10, she can be fucking incredible. And it pisses me off because she has a dream job that gives her the perfect life. And I know she is capable of doing whatever she wants in that role, because I've seen it. Like her role in, like, what was it, Children of Men?
She's so dude. How have I not had that on this show? I fucking love that movie. And it's so good.
I know. Just hear me out. But in Seventh Son, when she's just chewing up the fucking scenery, she was still amazing in that.
Yeah.
And then everything else she does, she's just Julianne Moore, but tired and wants to go to bed Julianne Moore. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Maybe it's just one of those things where it's like, if she is in a situation where she just could not give less of a shit about like the script or the movie, or maybe it's a thing. I couldn't tell you, but it is weird about how like she can be just like so good that you can't like take her eyes off the performance, and other times you're just like, man, you are literally phoning this in.
Like,
and you're just like,
I understand you can't give those performances all the time, you know,
unless you're Gary Oldman, and then you can give that performance every movie.
Funny you said that, because I was going to say unless you're Willem Dafoe, but
yeah,
like, because even when to me he's the perfect analog. He's great in everything he does. He can be very serious, very dramatic, and disappear into that, or he can be in The Lighthouse or fucking Spider-Man and just chew up the scenery and still be fucking great. And she can do that same thing. I've seen her do it.
Nick Cage is another one.
Oh, I fucking love Nick Cage.
Where Nick Cage is just like, he has no problems being himself, and I love that about him.
He made a movie about being himself.
I have to see that movie instantly, dude. I've been wanting to watch that, but I haven't been able to find time. But like, I haven't seen that movie. But yeah, we're running a little bit long because we just been kind of like reminiscing about like 1,000 other things. But yeah, I'm stoked that you picked Exorcist.
We're accidentally recording a better podcast. We have to get out of here.
Yeah, we gotta get the fuck out of here, dude. We're on the verge of quality, and we're not about that life.
Exactly.
Oh shit! But yeah, good selection. Yeah, I think your pick is gonna be. Let's see. I'm trying to think of like
the closest to Halloween.
Yeah. What is gonna? So this one goes online the 1st.
Yes. So not the closest. Mine's the 15th.
Yeah. So that yours gonna be the 15th.
So you got to make the pressure's on you, my friend.
Oh yeah.
Yours is gonna be on the 29th. You gotta deliver.
I got mine picked out, and it's gonna be, yeah, I've had it picked out for a while. It's gonna be pretty fucking wild.
I kind of want to know what it is when we stop recording.
I'll just make you wait a month. I don't know. We'll see how it's gonna go. But yeah, if you would like to follow the show further, you can find us on Twitter at SPR Filmcast. We mentioned earlier, if you have any questions or prompts you would like Ron and myself to answer at the beginning of each episode, you can always hit us up on that same Twitter at SPR Filmcast, or email us screenplayrewind@gmail.com. Any ratings or reviews that you can give us, we greatly appreciated. And if you have any friends that you think might enjoy the show, word of mouth is pretty much the only way podcasts can grow nowadays, because it's just a fucking shit show. So many podcasts.
And I was also going to go ahead and add that if you are listening to the show, but you're listening on a platform that you don't like, or you're listening in browser, hit us up at the same Twitter account and same email address, and I can try to get us on whatever you're listening to us on, because we have some weird numbers coming back. If you look at some of the places that we're on, where it's kind of like we're getting listens without subscribers. I can't imagine we're getting that much traffic unless it's like people were coming back and cherry picking episodes on a platform they don't like, so they're not following or subscribing. And we're getting hits in browser on Anchor.fm, and I'm like, why? Why would you do that? You can't even. I don't even think you can follow a podcast on Anchor. So if you're listening to us on a platform that you don't like or is not your favorite, let us know what your favorite is. It literally costs us nothing. It's usually just sign in, create an account, and copy and paste your RSS feed, and boom, you're on that service. So,
now your platform has mediocrity.
Exactly.
Now your platform has mediocrity.
So kind of a weird.
We aim to please.
It's kind of a weird plug at the end. I know, but it's the only thing I can figure with some of the numbers we're seeing. A lot of them have to do with what movies we're picking, but that's
gonna be any show like this.
That's
You're
also
gonna have people searching out.
But there's also some weird like trends as well. If you just look at the numbers, it's weird. So I get the feeling that, I don't know, maybe people are coming back here and there, or it's just all Bobby making. He won't sign up for anything.
That's also probably what's happening.
I don't know which one.
Bobby being Bobby.
Also,
which should be Bobby's podcast.
We might not be on Stitcher anymore. I don't know. I cannot figure out what the fuck is happening with Stitcher.
Is that like the equivalent of like if the tree falls in the forest, no one's around to hear it? Like
no one hears the Stitcher.
Yeah, no one hears it, because like I don't know a single person. They have to exist because the platform is big. I don't personally know a single person that uses Stitcher. So it's always just like a mind fuck to be about like Stitcher in general.
It's weird because
Stitcher. Maybe I talk shit about them and that's why we're no longer on the platform. I don't know.
They like merged with some other thing, and now like we don't have a login anymore. And I don't know if we're on the platform or anything. I don't know. I never got an email saying, hey, you need to sign back up or anything. I don't know what's going on, but our login doesn't work anymore.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it took me like over a year to get shit ironed out with Stitcher. We were there. It was happening. We made it. We were on Stitcher.
And then it's gone.
And now
it's gone.
And now it very well could be gone. I don't know. So if you're listening on Stitcher, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Who fucking knows? Maybe a year from now we'll get back on it just to lose it again. Who fucking knows?
Right.
I have no clue. But yeah, this has been a fun one, and thanks everyone for listening, and have a good night.
I showed the kids Empire Strikes Back.
Nice.
And the part they freeze Han and Carbonite, and then it's not quite a hard cut, but it's pretty close to a hard cut of them just floating him through the facility. Then they round a corner and he goes out of sight with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
After that happens, it's dead silent in the house. It's dead silent in the movie. And after that happens, Nathan goes, well, that was terrifying to watch. I burst out laughing so hard.
Awesome. That is amazing. I love that.
I don't even know where he got the words to put that sentence together. Like,
yeah, that's pretty. That's like something I would say ironically.
He used it perfectly, and he perfectly timed it with the movie and everything. And he said it exactly like that. He was like, "Well, that was terrifying to watch."
That's so funny.
Like, that's what I said to the blender scene in your next.
Well, that was terrifying to watch.
Well, that was terrifying to watch.
Ron's review of Oculus. Well, that was terrifying to watch.
I laughed so hard.
I'll have to tell Aurora about that. That's so funny.